The sun was dying behind thick clouds of dust on the outer edges of the colony. The ground shook with the rumble of alien machines, and the sky was streaked with flashes of energy as weapons fired from both sides. Humans ran for cover, shouting instructions, trying to defend their homes from the invaders who had come from a distant star system. The aliens were unlike anything humans had faced before. Their armor shimmered with strange energy, and their movements were sharp and precise, almost too fast to follow. Most humans were terrified, hiding behind the ruined walls of buildings or inside the few shelters that remained. Marcus had been separated from his unit early in the battle. He had seen his friends fall back, retreating from an alien patrol, and somehow he ended up alone in the middle of the war-torn streets. In his hands he carried nothing but determination and his own strength. His uniform was torn and his breathing was heavy, but he refused to run. He knew that if he left, the colony would fall faster. The aliens were advancing and every moment counted. Through the smoke and the chaos, Marcus noticed a figure moving with incredible speed. Her armor glowed with a faint purple light, and her weapon, a long, curved plasma blade, hummed with energy. She moved like a predator, her steps silent and careful, as if she were already certain of victory. Marcus recognized her immediately from the briefings he had seen before the attack. She was Jara, a warrior feared across her species for her unmatched skill in combat. Entire human squads had been defeated by her alone in other skirmishes. Jara's eyes locked onto Marcus, and she began to move towards him. Every human in sight scattered, leaving the battlefield nearly empty except for the two of them. She swung her plasma blade, and the air sizzled where it cut through. Marcus ducked instinctively, rolling to the side as sparks hit the ground near him. He had no weapon, no shield, nothing to block her strikes. He had only his reflexes and his wits. Jara's movements were fast, almost impossible to follow, yet Marcus didn't panic. He watched carefully, noticing the rhythm in her attacks. Each strike had a pattern, a moment of pause before the next one. He used that moment not to attack but to evade, twisting his body, ducking under her swings, and rolling over the rubble scattered around the street. For a moment, Jara hesitated. Marcus didn't even realize it at first. He was focused entirely on surviving, on keeping his balance, on using the broken environment to his advantage. But when he looked up, he saw it. She had frozen mid-strike. Her glowing blade hovered in the air, suspended by her own confusion. Her alien instincts had never prepared her for something like this. A human, barehanded, untrained by their standards, unarmored, was not supposed to survive a single strike, let alone move with such unpredictable skill. Marcus, sensing her pause, didn't attack. He knew he had a chance, not because he could overpower her, but because she had underestimated him. He took a careful step back, keeping his eyes on her, breathing slowly, calculating. Jara blinked, trying to understand what she was seeing. The human before her was unlike any she had faced. There was no fear in his eyes, only determination. There was no hesitation in his movements, only creativity. Every dodge, every roll, every jump seemed to surprise her, not by speed but by unpredictability. The street around them was filled with debris, fallen signs, broken vehicles, pieces of metal and concrete. Marcus used them like extensions of himself. A kick here, a swing there, a tumble behind cover. Every move was improvised but effective. He was not strong in the way an alien warrior was. He could not cut through metal or crush bone with a single blow, but he was clever. He could think quickly, adapt, and use the environment to create advantages. Jara's mind, trained to predict and control, could not account for the randomness of human instinct. For the first time in her life, Jara felt something unfamiliar, confusion, curiosity, admiration, even though she would never admit it. She was supposed to eliminate this human, yet here he was, alive and moving in ways that challenged everything she knew about combat. She shifted her stance, trying to regain her rhythm, but Marcus kept changing his approach. He ducked under a falling beam, rolled over a metal crate, and used the momentum to throw debris toward her. The small stones and fragments did not harm her, but they distracted her just enough for Marcus to move closer, keeping himself safe, keeping her guessing. The humans hiding behind walls watched in disbelief. A single man with no advanced weapon or armor was holding his ground against one of the deadliest warriors in the galaxy. They whispered among themselves, hope rising in their hearts for the first time that day. Marcus was not strong, but he was fearless. He was not predictable, but he was clever. And in that moment, The difference between human instinct and alien training became clear. Jara realized that she had miscalculated. This human was not a threat in the usual sense. He could not overpower her directly, but he was a threat because he refused to obey the rules of combat she had always followed. He could survive attacks that should have killed him. He could adapt to situations instantly, and most importantly, he would not back down no matter what. Marcus noticed her pause and felt a surge of confidence, though he did not let it show. He knew he could not win by striking. He could only survive outsmart and by time. Every moment he stayed alive was a moment the humans could regroup. He moved behind a toppled wall, peeking around the corner, and saw her adjusting her stance, her glowing blade humming as she prepared to strike again. Suddenly, reinforcements appeared, more alien warriors, faster and stronger than Marcus had ever faced. They surrounded him quickly, expecting an easy kill, but Marcus did not panic. He knew he could not fight all of them at once, but he could make them hesitate. He threw small objects at them, ducked behind obstacles, and used every bit of his environment to create confusion. Every movement was calculated, every action meant to survive, not to win. Jara watched, fascinated. The human instinct to protect, to survive, to fight without weapons or enhancements. It was something her species did not understand. She had always believed strength came from skill, training, and technology. But here was a human who had none of those things in the conventional sense, yet he was alive, alert, and dangerous in a way that no machine or blade could match. The battlefield seemed to hold its breath. Marcus moved quickly from cover to cover, dodging alien attacks, improvising defenses, and never staying in one place too long. He used debris as barriers, pushed over crates to block paths, and even tripped one alien with a carefully timed maneuver. Every small action made the aliens pause, giving him tiny advantages that should not have existed. Jara took a deep breath, her glowing blade still suspended midair. She realized that this human was not just fighting to survive. He was fighting to protect something greater than himself. His colony, his people, his home, it all mattered to him more than his own life. And in that realization, she felt something that had never touched her before: respect. For a long moment, the two warriors stared at each other. Marcus breathing heavily but steady, and Jara, frozen mid-strike, glowing blade poised but inactive. The world around them seemed to fade for a heartbeat, as if time itself acknowledged the unusual courage of a human facing an impossible opponent. The alien reinforcements were closing in, their own weapons ready, but Jara did not move. She had never faced a human who could make her hesitate like this. Marcus knew he had only moments, but he remained calm, moving with the rhythm of survival, waiting, watching, learning. And then, just as the first alien soldiers reached the outer edges of the fight, Jara stepped back, her blade lowering slightly. She was unsure of what she would do next. The humans might have a chance, not because they were stronger, but because one human had shown that strength alone was not everything. Marcus's courage, intelligence, and adaptability had frozen her in a way no weapon ever could. The first part of the battle ended in that frozen moment. The air was heavy with tension, and the humans watching dared to hope. Marcus had survived, not because he could fight like an alien, but because he had fought like a human. And Jara, the alien warrior who had frozen mid-strike, had just realized that humans were unpredictable, relentless, and far more dangerous than anyone had ever believed. The story paused there, leaving both humans and aliens on edge. What would happen next? Would Jara finish what she had started, or would she find herself questioning everything she had been taught about humans? Marcus did not know, but he prepared himself, ready to face whatever came next, with nothing but his bare hands and his unyielding spirit. Marcus could hear the distant shouts and the rumble of alien machinery behind him, but he did not turn. His focus remained on the alien warrior who had frozen mid-strike. Jara's glowing blade hummed faintly in the thick dust, and her eyes never left him. Marcus's heart pounded, but not with fear. He had learned to control that. He had learned that fear only slowed you down. The air was filled with the sounds of chaos. Energy weapons cracked, buildings shook, and debris fell from the sky. The rest of the human defenders were regrouping, hiding behind walls, readying whatever weapons they could find. Marcus knew they needed time to recover, and that time depended on him. He had no choice but to hold the aliens off as long as possible, using whatever the battlefield offered. Jara looked at the reinforcements she had brought. They were faster and stronger than Marcus, but they lacked his unpredictability. She realized that strength alone would not guarantee victory here. The human before her was changing the rules. Every time the aliens moved in, Marcus shifted, ducked, and countered in ways that no warrior of her species would expect. He threw debris to slow them, used broken walls as shields, and even tripped a few with careful timing. For the first time, Jara questioned her orders. She had been sent to eliminate humans with precision, but this human did not follow the rules. He did not fight with honor, with weapons, or with enhancements. He fought with instinct, creativity, and determination. And that made him dangerous, not just dangerous, but inspiring. Marcus, meanwhile, was aware of her hesitation. He could feel it in the way she moved, in the pauses between her attacks. He had survived against odds that should have killed him, not because of skill or technology, but because he thought differently. He adapted, using the environment to his advantage, and he watched Jara carefully, trying to anticipate her next move. He had learned quickly. She was strong, fast, and clever, but she had not faced someone like him before. The human defenders, seeing Marcus hold his ground, began to emerge from their hiding places. They were cautious at first, but Marcus's courage gave them hope. Some picked up what weapons they could find. Others grabbed pieces of debris to throw or use as shields. Slowly, cautiously, they joined the fight, inspired by a man fighting with nothing but his bare hands. Jara watched this unfold, fascinated. The humans were not retreating. They were not panicking. One human had stood up, and suddenly, others found the courage to follow. This was a pattern she had never encountered. In her species, fear often spread quickly, leading to retreat. But here, courage spread in the same way, giving humans strength they did not have before. Marcus moved between the humans and the alien reinforcements, blocking attacks, distracting enemies, and buying time. His actions were small but effective. He did not need to strike with power. He needed to survive, to protect the others, and to keep the hope alive. Every dodge, every quick move, every improvised defense delayed the aliens and allowed the humans to organize a counterattack. Jara took a step forward, lowering her glowing blade slightly. She realized that Marcus was not a mere opponent. He was a teacher in an unexpected way. He showed that humans had abilities beyond what she had expected: adaptability, courage, and the will to protect. These were not skills that could be trained in the traditional sense. They were traits born from instinct and experience. The battle continued around them. Aliens attacked from every direction, but Marcus kept moving, always aware of his surroundings. He ducked under energy blasts, rolled over fallen debris, and even used parts of the broken environment to slow down the alien forces. One by one, the reinforcements found themselves delayed or tripped, not by strength but by cleverness and quick thinking. Jara observed quietly. She could intervene, but she wanted to see how far this human would go. Marcus was injured. His uniform was torn, his hands bleeding from scrapes and cuts, but he showed no sign of giving up. He was small compared to the aliens, yet he was holding them off, forcing them to adapt, to rethink, and to hesitate. A sudden burst of energy from an alien device sent debris flying toward Marcus. He dove behind a piece of rubble just in time, rolling and using the momentum to push a crate toward the device. The device malfunctioned slightly, giving him a chance to move again. It was a small victory, but it mattered. Every delay allowed more humans to join the fight, more hope to grow, and more courage to spread. Jara finally stepped forward, not as an enemy, but as an observer. She moved carefully, keeping her blade ready but not attacking. She wanted to understand this human, this creature who could survive against impossible odds. Marcus noticed her approach but did not panic. He understood something important. She was not going to strike, at least not yet. There was a pause, a moment of understanding, as if both warriors realized the battle had changed. The human defenders rallied. With Marcus leading in his own way, they began to organize a strategy, not based on superior firepower but on clever tactics. They used traps, barricades, and quick movements to slow the aliens. The aliens, despite their strength and technology, found themselves challenged in ways they had never anticipated. They could not predict the humans, and that unpredictability became their weakness. Jara spoke to her commanders through a device, her voice calm but firm. She suggested a pause, explaining that underestimating humans could cost them dearly. Her words carried a weight they had not expected from a warrior. They argued, but she insisted, citing the strange abilities of one human who refused to be defeated. Her species valued strength and obedience, but Jara was showing them that courage and intelligence could be just as important. Marcus, aware of the pause, took a moment to breathe and assess the situation. He had not won, but he had survived long enough to change the battle. The humans now had a chance, and he was proud not of himself, but of what his people could achieve when inspired. He moved carefully among the defenders, guiding, encouraging, and helping wherever he could, using his knowledge of the battlefield to turn disadvantages into small advantages. Jara observed silently. She had never met a human like this. His determination, his courage, and his cleverness were not things she had ever been trained to fight against. She realized that humans were unpredictable, and that unpredictability was a kind of strength. They could think, adapt, and survive in ways that defied logic and strategy. The alien forces slowly began to retreat, confused and cautious. Jara allowed them to fall back, signaling that humans could not be easily defeated. Marcus's eyes widened as he saw the shift. They were winning, not because of weapons or numbers, but because of courage, ingenuity, and the human spirit. The humans began to cheer quietly among themselves. Marcus did not celebrate loudly. He remained focused, tending to those who were injured and ensuring that the aliens did not regroup too quickly. He had survived, and in surviving he had given hope to others. Jara approached him finally, her blade lowered completely. She spoke in a calm tone, one that Marcus could barely understand but felt the meaning of. She acknowledged the courage and strength he had shown. Marcus, tired and bruised, nodded quietly. He understood that respect could be earned even from an enemy, and that this warrior before him now saw humans in a new light. The battle had ended for now, but the story was far from over. Marcus and his people had survived, inspired by the bravery of one human who refused to give up. Jara left with a new understanding, recognizing that humans were not to be underestimated. Their creativity, courage, and spirit made them formidable in ways her species could not fully grasp. As the sun dipped further below the horizon, casting long shadows across the battlefield, Marcus looked at the sky. The war was not over, but for the first time he felt hope. Humans had survived the impossible, and in doing so, they had earned the respect of a warrior who had once been their enemy. Somewhere beyond the horizon, Jara reflected on what she had witnessed. Humans were dangerous not because of their strength or weapons, but because they would never stop fighting, never stop adapting, and never stop believing in something greater than themselves. Marcus's hands were scratched, his body bruised, but his spirit was unbroken. He had faced the impossible with nothing but courage and instinct, and he had survived. And somewhere out there, an alien warrior had learned a lesson that could change the way her people thought about humans forever. The humans slowly began to gather, tending to the wounded and repairing their defenses. Marcus moved among them, not as a hero but as a guide and an example. The battle had shown them something important. Courage could inspire, cleverness could protect, and the human spirit could survive even when everything seemed lost. The sun finally set and the first stars appeared in the sky. Marcus and the humans looked toward the future, knowing that more challenges would come, but they also knew that they had something the aliens could never fully understand: the power of hope, ingenuity, and courage. And that power would continue to grow.